Harry on, and thank you very much for joining us in our second video when we go into Ashtanga Yoga and what constitutes Ashtanga Yoga, Raja Yoga, the yoga of 8 limbs, or I should say our ladder from the individual to the absolute. Now in our last video, Niyama, we looked at the 5 different aspects of that, and I mentioned that this second rung that I'm going to speak about in this video is quite similar. They're like the do's and don'ts of spirituality, and they safeguard us against future karma, but also make life just easier to get through when put into practice and followed with discipline. Now, speaking of discipline, Niyama has 5 aspects to it, like Yama as well, and the first one that I'm going to touch upon is called Tapasyā or Tapasyā, which is discipline. Now, this could be in spirituality when it comes to practices, your sadhana, or just living life with discipline, doing what you say that you're going to do, taking responsibility for the actions and the words that you send forth out into the world, and just living your life with stoicism, accepting things as they come, dealing with them, getting through them, living life humbly and not causing pain or harm to the life around you. It's that discipline, Tapasyā. And if you can live life like that, you notice how things start to change for you. Now, in future videos, I speak about various practices that you can apply to help with that. But really, you know better than anyone what you need to do in your life to get to where you need to be. And you know that you've got to have that courage, that determination, and that forbearance to be able to do it. And really, only you can help yourself with this. I can help you so far with practices and stuff like that. But you need to apply yourself with that force and effort, and it needs to come from you. Right, so next, Santoṣa, which is contentment. Now, in the previous video, Yama, I mentioned about how much of a benefit it is to just live with what you need to survive. And Santoṣa, contentment, is something similar. So, if you can find the beauty and enjoyment in life with what you have, you've won a great battle. Problem we have is this: we all have desires, and there's nothing inherently wrong with desires. We all have them, but the problem is they carry us hither and thither, back and forth, here and there, up and down, left and right, and they're the ones that rule our lives, rather than we decide on them and just work stoically towards them. And if we don't get them, we're all right with it. That's where the real problem comes. It's because when we don't get things, we feel upset. We feel like dejected, let down, feel like the world's against us. And look, I know from my own personal experience that this is the situation. It was for me anyway. We all want things. We want a new car, new house, family, wife, kids, all that stuff. And if it doesn't come, if they're not fulfilled, we feel upset. The thing is, when it comes to Santoṣa contentment, it's about creating that wriggle room, that little bit of a gap where if they don't come, we're still all right with that. And we look around us and say, do you know what? I've got some family, I've got some friends, I've got this, I've got that. And that's enough. For the time being, I'm content and happy with that. One of the things that happened 2 weeks ago, after I finished teaching a class, a lady was there and we were looking at photos of one of the class members. And there's various animals. They'd been somewhere and they'd taken photos of animals. And after she'd finished looking at them, she said, do you know what? I get as much enjoyment looking from other people's photographs as I do my own. And I thought to myself, that's quite profound, because if you're able to do that, if you're able to derive happiness from someone else's joy, you've won a great battle in life. Because you're not dependent on your own happiness. You can look out into the world, see other people being happy, and derive and experience that joy within yourself through that. It's a tremendous skill to have, and if you can start to just mold yourself into being that type of person, doing those practices, trying to find that empathy, that joy from other people's happiness, the better it's going to serve you. Alright, so you've got Santoṣa, and you've got Tapasyā, and now Śauca, which is cleanliness. Now, when I say cleanliness, I don't just mean picking up a bar of soap and giving yourself a scrub. I'm sure you're all more than capable of doing that, and you're lovely, clean people. But it means internally as well. So it means looking at our thoughts, taking 5 or 10 minutes out in the day just to sit by yourself, if you can even carve that time out in this busy working lives that we have nowadays, just to sit and see what thoughts come up. And you'll be surprised, you'll start thinking about things from 10 years ago, people you haven't seen for like who knows how long. And it's incredible how much space we still give these things in our life. Negative thought patterns, things that ultimately don't work to our favour, might actually be detrimental, but we still constantly think about. It's about weaning those thoughts out, sublimating those thoughts, and just taking that time with yourself. And that leads me on to the next point, which is Svādhyāya, which is self-study. Now, that could be scripture. You could look at the ancient texts and things like that, and they're a gold mine of practices and, right information and knowledge and wisdom that will help you navigate life and reach that, top rung of the ladder with greater speed and effect. But also, it means self-study. It means self-analysis, like I just spoke about. It's about going inside yourself, studying, seeing which parts of you are not working anymore. We all grow, we all develop, and sometimes those things that used to serve us become anchors and start to weigh us down. If you can find out what they are and start to remove them, all the better. All right, so next we've got Īśvarapraṇīdhāna. Now, this means surrender to God when translated, but whatever your race, colour, creed, religion, anything like that, let's put that to one side for the moment. And I'll ask you this question. Is your heart beating? Are your lungs working? Hopefully you've said yes. Otherwise, I can call someone 999. Thing is this. Whatever it is that's beating my heart or my lungs, it's not me. I know that, because if I had to consciously think about it, I wouldn't get much further than waking up in the morning and probably brushing my teeth. I'll be collapsed on the floor. But there's something, call it whatever you want, God, creation, nature, life, energy, whatever word you want to term it, it's working these things in the body, and it's going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's not me consciously doing it. There's something doing it. So it's realizing that. It's surrendering yourself to that higher power, whatever you want to call it. Now, one of the practice that I do, and I enjoy it, is I have something called an Akandadiya, and it's a 24-hour light. Now, it's just a little tea light, but when I wake up in the morning, I strike a match if it's gone out and I light it. Or throughout the day, I just check on it, and when it looks like it's going out, strike a match, set it off. Or before I go to bed at night, I just make sure it's lit. Now, luckily, there's a shop that sells 8-hour tea lights around me, so I don't have to do it too much throughout the day, because keeping oil and ghee in the house causes a lot of smoke, and some houses have got white walls. I ruined my previous place. It took me a lot of painting over it to get it back to what it was, because of all the smoke damage that I caused. Anyway, so keeping something like that, it just reminds you throughout the day that you're lighting it just with that humility and just that awareness that there's something that's working all of this life around you, and it goes on ceaselessly and seamlessly, and it's just incredible, because no matter what's happening in life, we might be down, we might be upset, we might be going through a bad patch. If we're able to see a bit of beauty that life has, and it is there, I know sometimes it's covered up, if you can see it though, it really is a good life. There's some really beautiful aspects and people and things and animals to it. Anyway, so just to recap, so you've got Santoṣa, which is contentment, Śauca, which is cleanliness, you've got Svādhyāya, which is self-study, you've got Tapasyā, which is discipline in action, applying yourself, and you've got Īśvarapraṇīdhāna, which is surrendering to that higher power. So if you can do those things and put them together with the Niyama, those other 5 aspects in the first video, you're well on the way to laying that foundation to move up the ladder with greater ease and effect. Join me in the next video where we speak about the third rung of Ashtanga Yoga, which most people in the West are aware about, which is yogasanas, or yoga itself, what we know as the physical postures. Thank you very much.